Can you hear me now? Hello? Hello? Can you all hear? So I think that worked. So if it didn't work, um, let me just start over just in case it didn't work. All right. So this is supposed to be in support of anybody that has kids in high school, especially in California. All right. And like I said, the first thing I'm covering is A through G, like A through G requirements. So again, we talk a lot about A through G. We talk a lot about like well, I talk a lot about A through G, but a lot of people talk about GPAs and who graduated and graduation rates. So graduation rates are rising. They are doing well, right? But A through G are the classes that one must take in order to qualify for college, right? It's like the comprehensive set of classes that one should take to make sure they can get into college. So an example of this is when I was in college and I went to Cal State, Hayward, East Bay, whatever you call it. What happened was my friend who graduated and had a good GPA, who was at Mac, he thought he was going to be able to come to Cal State Hayward with me, and instead they told him that he couldn't get in because he didn't pass his A through G classes. He didn't even know what that was. That wasn't a conversation around that, and they had him taking a lot of classes that weren't necessarily A through G, all right? So I want you to know this because a good school will go through this with you, but all these schools don't do it. And again, this ain't about blaming or whatever the case is. This is about you building your own and us taking care of our own. So I know how to do it, so now you're gonna know how to do it. So you can check A through G classes for any school in any high school in California. If it's an accredited school, they have to have it. So now let's go back to and Brianna, can you let me know if you can hear now? Let's see, can you hear now? All right, so I'm gonna show you my computer screen and let's go from there. All right, so I'm gonna start all the way from the beginning. Just go to Google. You don't need to know this website by heart. All right, what you can do is you can just go here and type in UC doorways. All right, remember UC doorways. Type that in. Let me make it even bigger for you. All right, type in UC doorways and just push enter. Cool. It's the first thing. It's normally the first thing that comes up. All right. So when you go here, you can type in any institution in California, any high school, and it should come up, right? So let's the website is slow. Let's say they go to Oakland Tech. Oakland Tech High. Let's see if that works. Boom, it comes right up, right? So now what happens is now I get to see the full list of A through G courses. So A is for history. You need 2 years of history. All right. B is for English. You need 4 years of English. C is for math. You need 3 years of math, but 4 is recommended. So try to make sure, like especially if you want your kid to go to a UC or a private school, try to get them those 4 years. Okay. The other thing is D is science. You need 2 years. 3 is recommended. All right. The E is LOT, or language other than English. So if somebody says LOT, that's what that means. All right. You need 2 years, but 3 is recommended. So remember, if you're trying to get into a UC or a private school, these are the ones that you want to these that's recommended. You want to go for that, right? F is visual arts. You need a year of that, and then you need a year of a college prep class. Okay. So if your kid is not in these classes, right, like that fit these categories, and you can check it for all your kids' classes, right? And it's supposed to match up with their transcript. What you do is when they come home, you take their transcript and you look at it and you see how many classes they got in there, right? If you want it, send me an email. My email is up there. Send me an email, and what I'll do is I'll create like a checklist of what it should look like year over year. It's a little different depending on what school you go to, but the gist is the same. And you need to know this stuff. And these are the conversations you need to be having with their counselor or vice principal or whatever the case is, right? Or assistant principal. We don't really have vice principals anymore. All right? So I want to make sure people understand how to do that. Again, this ain't about this ain't about giving you a bunch of fish. This is about teaching you how to fish. Okay? So I'm going to do this again from scratch. I'm going to pick a different school. and then you're gonna let me know if you understand how to do this. Okay, so we're gonna start again. You don't need to, if you want to try to memorize the website, fine, but you don't need to memorize the website. You about to learn how to fish right now, and know that A through G is one of the most important things that you're going to be able to do for your kid that's going into high school. So I'm going back, and we're going to do it from scratch, all right? So now let's go here. Go to a clean sheet. We're just going to start at Google. UC Doorways is the site that you want to, that's what you want to search. UC Doorways. First thing that comes up, A through G list course. It got every single class, every single high school listed. So I went to Emory High School. Let's see if we can find Emory High School. Let's see. Okay, then come up there. Let's just type in Emory, see what comes up. Okay, Emory Secondary School. So it's not called Emory High School, it's called Emory Secondary School. Now I can go there. It got all my stuff listed. Go to the course list, and there we go. A through G. And it tells you again what is required. Again, A is history, social sciences. It tells you how many years you need. English, 4 years required. All this stuff, right? Go through this and check this stuff off alongside your kid. If you see a class on your kid's transcript and it's not on here, you are not getting A through G credit. Let me say that one more time. I'm going to put the camera back on me to say that again. If you go through your kid's transcript and it's like, oh, that seemed like a math class or a science class, that should count. If it's not on the A through G list, it is not an A through G class. All right? If it's not on the A through G list, it is not an A through G class. If you understand and hear me, I need somebody to put that in the comment section. If it is not on the A through G list on UC Doorways, it is not an A through G course. There are so many black kids that think they taking the right courses, that think that these things count towards college, and they don't. All right? So that's that. The other things that I said that I would cover for you all, let me pull this down and get this full list. I said getting to college, making sure you got the right classes. We talked about that. Questions to ask your kid's school. So here's the other thing, right? When you start, here, you know what? I got a whole presentation for you because I want you to really understand this, and I want you to know, right? There are certain questions that you need to be asking when you send your kid to school. I must really love y'all because it's hot in my house. I ain't got no fan on so y'all can hear me. You should feel really, really special. I just wanted you to know that. All right. Let's do this. So let's show you this way. All right. So here go the questions that you should be asking. All right. When your kid, let's get it out here. When your kid is starting school. All right. So these are 5 questions that you all need to ask. Okay. The first is, what's my kid's reading level? Let me be very clear with you. All right. Especially with black kids, less than 3 out of 10 black kids, especially boys, are reading on grade level. All right. So what does that mean? That means that we got a bunch of kids that are functioning illiterate. We got a bunch of kids that can read. They might be reading at a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th grade level that we don't know, right? So instead of ask about their grade, but also ask your school or your kid's teacher or English teacher or whatever, what is my child's reading level? Now, people can say a whole bunch of stuff. They can say test the races. They can say this, that, and the third, right? All that stuff sounds good. The reason why this is important is because when they get to college, I graduated. I'm going to tell you a story. I graduated with a pretty good GPA, high 3. It's like a 3.6 or something like that, 3.8. I don't remember. When I tell you that I was remedial everything when I got to college, I was remedial everything. That means I had to spend more money. These classes didn't count, all that good stuff, right? So, like, ask what your kid's reading level is now so you can start getting age-appropriate books for your child and making sure that they catch up in reading. That's one of the most fundamental things that we must learn how to do, right? Like, people used to get parts of their body cut off, you know what I'm saying, for trying to learn how to read and to comprehend, okay? And right now, we in a space where 3 out of 10 of our kids can read. I'm telling you, if we did that to another country, a white country, they would bomb us. That's an act of war that kids can't read. So know what your kids' reading level is. And ask yourself, do I know what my kids' reading level is? You know what I'm saying? And this ain't nothing to be ashamed of. It's just not questions that's intuitive to ask. Because if my kid's getting a good grade in the class, one would assume that he could actually read, right? Well, you can't assume a damn thing in a system that's been failing you for generations. The next question. What do you see? No, that's not the next question. Can we set up a regular time to check in? Listen, man. I have all these talks about teachers don't love us or people should love us or whatever the case is. I don't even necessarily need a teacher to love my kid. I just need them to not hate them. I just need them to see something in my child beyond like negativity or whatever the case is, right? So the onus is on us. The onus is on you as a parent, like to set up times to meet with your child. Set those times up, right? So meaning I think, especially if you got, let's see, your kid got either 5 to 7 teachers if they're in high school, right? You should be, all of them should have your phone number. You should have all their phone numbers, their whatever you text them with, and their email addresses. You should check in and you should talk to them, whether in face or on the phone or whatever, at least once a month. At least once a month. Because here's the thing, it's not hard to get your kid into college. It's really not. It's some very simple things that need to happen. Now, that don't mean that he learned a lot or she learned a lot, right? Because there's a difference between schooling and education. Education is the actual knowledge that you gain and that you get and that you can convey. Schooling is merely the apparatus and the building that you go to in which you're supposed to get education. Those two are not the same. All right. So one can do schooling well and not get education, and one can get a lot of education and not do schooling well. To get into college, you have to do schooling well, right? So this is a part of doing schooling well, and hopefully some good education comes out of it. So the onus is on you. Set up something on your refrigerator where you should have the names to all your kids' teachers. You should know what periods they are. You should know, and you should have a checkoff mark every single month to make sure that you checked in with that teacher about your kid. You got me? Does that make sense? Can we let me know in the comments if we can agree to do that? Okay? The next question. What do you see in my child? Right? So this goes in line with you gotta see them and talk to them to even be able to do this part, right? But again, I don't know if I need these teachers to love us or to love me or whatever the case is, but I do need you to not hate my child. I do need you to see some type of promise in my child, right? So what do you see in my child is a really important question. And if you're not getting good answers, you better get your kid the hell out of that classroom. Like if your kid can't see, if that teacher can't see the potential of your child, then I don't know if I want that teacher teaching my child. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like I remember being in elementary school at Lafayette, and they called us thugs or gangbangers in training or something like that. I heard this as a child, right? Like that is not somebody that you want around and influencing your child. So that also puts pressure on them that if they didn't see something that first visit, they for damn sure better have an answer for you the next time that they see you. You understand what I'm saying? You need to know what these people see in your kid. The other reason why you need to know is not all negative, right? They might see something in your kid that you don't see. Kids are different when they're away from their parents, right? So they might see that little Billy is an artist. They might see that little Janet is like really great at drawing. They might see that she's a math whiz and that she actually wants to try to do X, Y, and Z. Like open up the lanes of communication, right? You know what I'm saying? And I do these trainings the opposite way with teachers to parents, right? And I tell them that their first visit, their first call to you shouldn't be a negative call. It should actually be a call of them telling you what they see in your child, right? So I'm working on this from both angles, but neither side should like take for granted that the other side is doing something. Don't wait. Don't assume. You do it. Because this is your child. At the end of the day, people can talk all the shit they want. They can say all the stuff about how they care about your kid, and they can stand on picket lines, and they can write articles, and they can say a whole bunch of stuff. But at the end of the day, this is your child, and you and that child have to live with the consequences. So you go out and you build that relationship. And if they don't see something in your kid, then you better fight like hell to get them in front of a teacher that does. The other part, the next piece. What are the goals for this month, section, semester, etc.? This part is really, really important. And let me tell you why, right? Because most lay people, most education civilians, that's folks that don't work in education, don't really know what goes into like teaching, right? So let me use my mother, for example. My mother thought that things were good if my name didn't get on the board and I was happy and I did all my homework and got good grades, right? She didn't know that there's supposed to be a goal in the room when you step in. She didn't know there's supposed to be that teachers do lesson planning in units, right? And that each of those units has a goal, right? Like she didn't know that stuff. But you're going to walk in with this language and you're going to say, hey, what's the goal for this unit? What's the goal for this month or this semester or whatever the case is? Every single teacher that has your child should have a goal. And if they don't have a goal, you might want to get your kid out that class. This is what you do if they don't have goals. You say, okay, thank you. And you walk your ass right to the principal's office. And you say, listen, I just asked about Janet. I just asked Janet's teacher, her English teacher, what the goal was for this month or this section or whatever. And she ain't had nothing for me. Like, that is a problem. And if you tell that to a good principal, then that should be a problem for them as well, right? If you run into this multiple times, because your kid probably got 5 to 7 classes, if you run into this multiple times with multiple teachers, you better get to changing some classes or thinking about changing schools, all right? And I don't care what type of school you go to, that's just never a good sign. Are you with me? Does that make sense? And I'll go through this again at the end. Lastly, and there's some other stuff, but I wanted to do it in chunks of 5 to make it easy for you all, right? Lastly, what is your discipline policy? Oh, this is really big, especially if you got black kids. This ain't even just high school. This is if you got a preschooler all the way to a kid in the 12th grade. You need to be very, very clear on what the rules are. You need to be very clear on what the expectations for your kid are and what's going to happen if certain things, if your kid gets in trouble, because they will flip the script. We already know they see our kids as older. You know what I'm saying? We know black boys and girls get suspended at a higher rate. Like, we know that they feel like we are over violent, or if we're roughhousing, there's no roughhousing, right? Because a lot of times black kids don't get to just be kids. So you need to be very clear on the discipline policy, and you need to be very clear in establishing a relationship with this teacher, saying, look, we got to work together here. So when his little ass is acting up or whatever is happening, like, this is how we gonna deal with this together. Like I'm telling you, if you don't reach out, you'll be hearing some stuff in May and you will be hot. All right, you tell these people to let you know the first moment that there's an issue, so we can iron it out together. And that's what your monthly check-ins are for, is to make sure things are going well so you can correct stuff. Do not leave the fate of your child and your lineage in a system that has been failing you. I don't give a damn what kind of school it is. I don't care what the marks on the school is. I don't care if it's private, charter, traditional, whatever. These are simple things that every single school should be able to answer. All right, and I'm gonna get y'all out of here, but let's go through this real quick. Here are the 5 questions that y'all should be asking. You can take a screenshot of this. You can try to write it down. I will also try to save this video so you can look at it again later. All right, and if you want, you can make a request for me to turn this into like a little ebook for you, or some PDFs, so you can have everything. Okay. 1, what's my child's reading level? 2, can we set up a regular time to check in? 3, what do you see in my child? 4, what's the goal for this month, section, quarter, marking period, whatever, right? And then 5, what is your discipline policy? All right, here's my information. You can take some time right now. Write all this stuff down. I will give you a second while I drink some water, since I'm out here glowing for you people. It's hot, fam. I'm sweating. All right, you got it? Okay. Cool. So, let's go back here. And I want to make sure that, does anybody have any questions off the last 2 sections that I just did? I'm going to give you some time to ask them. Just throw your questions. You can email me directly, or you can just throw your questions in the comments. Maybe somebody else has them too. So again, I don't want to bombard you with a lot of stuff. Um, I'm gonna end this here. It's about the 30-minute mark. Is at 5:30. If you need support, you are not on your own. All right. Like I started in my career as a social worker, then I started working directly with teachers and at the district, and I still work in education. Like, oh, last thing, IEP. If you have a child on an IEP, you don't have to sign anything. Like, and you get to take in whoever you want into these IEP meetings. Here's what you need to know about IEP meetings, right? One, IEP contracts tend to supersede whatever the precedent of education is. So, for instance, let me give you an example. If you agree in the IEP meeting and it gets signed off by the district and by you that instead of, I'm throwing out arbitrary numbers, instead of 200 units to graduate, Johnny needs 170, that becomes the letter of the law. All right. So for the most part, okay, you can take in whoever you want into your IEP. You can take your reverend, you can take your counselor, you can ask me, you can ask your friends. Like, you can do whatever you need to do. Like, this is a legally, think of this as a legal negotiation for your child's education. All right. So I'm gonna end it here. I will do these again if you have specific questions. I'll build the stuff around it, and I'll put the stuff in a book if that's what you all need. But again, all this begging people to like love our kids, all this like trying to kumbaya and trying to like, I don't know, man. We be trying to do a whole bunch of stuff, but our kids are still being failed. And it's a whole bunch of excuses. It's a whole bunch of things that's going to be different next time, but you don't have time for next time. When our kids don't graduate and go to college and get what they need, they die. They get sick. They don't live as long. They don't get good jobs. And I'm telling you, as somebody who lives in Oakland, who might end up moving up out this thing soon, and I make good money, it is expensive and it is real out here. Set your kids up to be successful, and you have to be the quarterback of your team. I don't care if you got a PhD. I don't care if you dropped out in the second grade. You are the expert on your child. Never let that go. Don't relinquish that. Like, you got to drive this bus, and I need you to know that. Because at the end of the day, all these people can say all they want. Diane Ravage's old white lady that don't know nothing about you and your community, or whatever promises these people make, whatever came up in the union strike, or whatever the case is, what they didn't talk about in the strike is your kid directly, right? So I'm just gonna tell you, this is not smoke for other people. This is just love for you. All right. Like, at the end of the day, we responsible for our own. All right, so I'll do whatever I can to help. I will be on camera sweating and glowing for you. But this stuff is important, man. I love y'all. I love my community. And send other questions, and I will put another video together for you all. All right, peace.